Okay, so this is not intended to be a complete course on Photoshop. However, today in getting you guys started, I wanted to go over some of the features that you'll find when you open up Photoshop. Um, I've already opened it up and I have an image here. Um, and perhaps I should do another video just showing where how that happens. But once you do open up Photoshop, you'll see this sort of a workspace. Okay? And then you'll have your interactive palettes over here that you can work with. Um, so if we go along the top, we have these drop-down tabs: File, Edit, Image, Layer, Type, Select, so on and so forth. This is how I started working with Photoshop, and so I use these a great deal. But if I do click on any one of these, you will notice that once I get this drop down, that there are lots of what they call shortcuts or hotkeys to get you to certain places easier. So the file has a whole bunch of things about saving it, where I'm going to put it, um, all those sorts of things that are there. And right now, some of them are grayed out because I have a tool selected and I haven't completed what I was doing with that tool itself. So you may want to take a look through there and start seeing like what's under select, what's under filter, and so on and so forth. The next video I want to make is all about selecting something. Um, so right now these are grayed out, but you can see there's a number of different options of how you want to try to select part of your image. Underneath that drop down, we have this little work bar, I call it. And whatever tool I've selected from the left-hand side will have different sort of attributes that I can change based on the tool and the image. Okay? So right now it's on the crop tool, and it's basically saying that, do I want this to be a ratio? Do I want what's behind it to be clear? And so on and so forth. This little gear thing that looks like a settings, that's going to pop up on a number of the tools. And you can see that if I hover, it will give me an explanation of what that tool is. Also, if I right click on it, it's going to give me a drop down and it's going to tell me that I can change this tool so that what I see when I'm using the tool is different in this case. This on the left is going to be all of my toolbars, tools. And while there are a lot there, there are still some that are hidden. So underneath each one of these ones where that has a little arrow on the side, you can try to click directly on that arrow, or you can left click and you'll get a little pop out that'll tell you what other tools are there that are hidden beneath it. So in this case, there's a lasso tool, a polygonic lasso tool, and a magnetic lasso tool that we'll talk about in the next image. In addition, you'll see here up at the top, you've got these little double arrows, and you can click on that or click back to change it into two columns as opposed to one column. I like having two columns myself. It looks a little neater, and I see a few more of the tools there. And then down here at the bottom, this is a very important section for you. So while we'll maybe mention what all these tools are, these two squares tell you what your foreground color is and what your background color is. So right now it's set to our standard black and white, but we can change those. We can alter them by clicking on this little arrow. And in a sense, what it's telling us is that if I pick, say, a brush and I want to make a mark with that brush, right now it's going to be a black mark on a white background. Um, if I want to change the color of the brush, I can simply click on that black, the foreground color, and my color picker tool will come up, and I can use the slider to go to different hues in the spectrum. And I can click within that to get lighter, more gray blues in this case, or darker, more black blues. And I can also go in and look at different color swatches or libraries in order to pick that color. The numbers that are here, I might as well go over this while we're here, tell us about how that color is coded and whether or not the color would be able to be printed or projected onto a screen. So the RGB would be the kinds of colors that would need to be illuminated for it to be projected on a computer screen. So if I was doing something for a web-based application, that might be important to me. But the ones that we're probably more concerned with would be the CMYK, which is the kind of colors that you would use when you are printing: cyan, magenta, yellow, and K for black. So the coding here, the two that I know the most about would be these two sections below. The stuff that's up above would be more along the lines of some kind of computer code that's in there. So anyway, so that's just how we're going to pick colors. So now you can see my background, my foreground color has been changed to blue and my background color has been changed to white. The other tools that you see here are going to tell you what they are when you click on them, but we have move, we have lasso, we have crop, we have our eyedropper tool, which will help us pick colors as well. We have our brush tool, and then we have our history brush tool, which is a tool that we can use to get rid of or go backwards in terms of like what we've done or what we want to appear in an image. Okay? We have a gradient tool, and if you right click on that, you'll also have your paint bucket tool, which are very helpful tools themselves. And then if we go below that, we have our dodge tool. And if we click on our dodge tool, you can see you also have a burn tool and a sponge tool. And our dodge and burn are what we use to lighten or darken a part of an image. So say your friend's face is in shadow and you want to lighten it up in a photograph of the two of you underneath a tree, you can use dodge and burn to make that happen. Our text tool is what we'll use to write into or over the top of an image. And below that, we have our shape tools where we can do rectangles, circles, ellipses, polygons. We have a line tool there. Custom shape sounds like you'll be able to draw a shape, but actually it has some preloaded shapes. So if you click on that, you will see that there are, in this case, a little blobby shape, but if you click and drag on there, there'll be some other shapes that you can grab and use as well within that when we get back up to our, I'll cancel that out. But like if I drag, there's my tree shape that's in there. We have our marquee tool, which selects things, and we have our object selection tool, which is another way of selecting things. That's kind of a new feature this year. Framing tool will help us figure out how to make things fit. Band-Aid tool is for getting rid of things like watermarks on there. Our rubber stamp or clone tool will help us to clone or create more of something that is already in the image. Eraser tool is an old-fashioned, helpful tool that does basically what you would think. The blur tool will also do it kind of exactly what you think. And underneath the blur tool, we have the sharpen tool and the smudge tool, which are tools that I use from time to time as well. The pen tool has it sounds like it's just going to be the same as a brush tool or a pencil tool, but it actually creates a different kind of line. It's a vector instead of a line, and therefore it is a mathematical equation. So the pen tool people use a lot in Adobe Illustrator because they can create things that are infinitely expandable without becoming pixelized. And I would stay away from the pen tool until you want to do something like that. Stick with the brush or pencil tool instead. We have our select tool below that, which helps you, once you have created some vectors, pick them and do something with them. So you can like add anchor points and things that we'll deal with in another time. And then once we have selected things, we got our hand tool, which I refer to as your moving tool. You can grab your image and sort of drag it around. Now here we've got our edit toolbar. So like, let's say you use this a lot and you don't want to select or use the pen tool anymore. You can hide those sorts of things there. And then below that, we have a couple of other options. We have our quick mass selection tool, which was a big tool for me in 4 years ago. And I'll show you a video of how that works. But it's helps you refine your selections. And then we also have these two windows, which if you click on that, you can see it'll change the kind of look of your screen. So you can click on it and click backwards and go full screen and all those sorts of things. So you can do that sort of stuff. Now, let's say you want to get out of that mode. Like you clicked on that and you're like, don't know what you're doing anymore. And now I've got this hand tool and I can't see any of my stuff. If I just slide off the screen, my toolbar pops back up. And if I escape out of it, hit escape on my keyboard, it's going to put me back where I started in my more traditional view. There are some other features to the screen here, your timeline and that sort of thing. If I X myself out, you can see that we've got little tutorials over here ready-made for you that you could start looking at, how to paint, how to fix a photo, some fundamental skills. And those are good little step-by-step directions to help get you started. So what we're trying to do is show you what's here and to not be afraid of how many things are here. If you use Photoshop and you only use the brush tool and the crop tool in order to change what's going on in a picture, hit enter and now I've cropped it. That's fine. That's a good use of Photoshop. So at this point, I'm going to stop this video. And I am going to come back and talk about selecting part of a existing image.